Hey guys, welcome to the channel Gen Tech Commando. My name's Ryan, a former Royal Marine, and I react to military-based content, if the occasional different form of content as well. Of recent, you'll probably find that I've been trying to make a bit of a boxing comeback on YouTube and stuff, and I've been doing quite well, guys, alright? I've actually been accepted for boxing trials out in Dubai, and yeah, if you haven't seen my other videos explaining that, then go check it out, guys. But today, we're going to be reacting to how was England formed. I'm looking forward to this. We don't do much England content. A lot of you guys from the States want to hear my perspective on things United Kingdom, England. So here we go, guys. This is probably the start of that. Please like, share, and subscribe. Drop a comment below if you like the content, and go check out the original channel where I've reacted to this content from, guys. Peace.
The existence of England is one that is often taken for granted and looked at far too scarcely. This may be due to the overshadowing history of the development of Great Britain and the United Kingdom. But nonetheless, in order for these unions to be formed, England had to already exist, and it actually has since 927 AD. So how was England created? Who claimed the land before the English, and how did it become the nation that we know today?
I'm looking forward to this one. I'm not going to lie. I don't really know much about stuff. I didn't pay attention in class when I should have. So yeah, history's not my strong point, but let's get into it.
As the Roman Empire began to fade from the British Isles, the area of modern-day England started to see a wave of migration from Anglo-Saxon Germanic tribes. According to some historians, after the Romans left, the native Britons came under attack from the nearby Picts and Scots, and subsequently welcomed some of these Anglo-Saxons in hopes that they would push out the other invaders. The Germanic peoples were successful in expelling both the Scots and Picts, but they then turned on the native Britons and established their own authority by the start of the 7th century. The new Anglo-Saxon rulers then installed the kingdoms of Essex, Kent, Sussex, Mercia, East Anglia, Northumbria, and Wessex on the British mainland. There are minimal records of what happened over the next few centuries throughout these kingdoms, but we do know that it wouldn't be long before the Anglo-Saxons would face invaders of their own. In 793, a Viking army landed at the Lindisfarne Monastery and raided the sacred building.
It sounds crazy that the Viking army invaded us, but they did, all right, back in the day. We've still got remnants of their existence along the Northumbria coast as well. So I live literally slap bang in the middle of where that Northumbria is annotated there in Sunderland.
Violence and disrespect stunned the Anglo-Saxons, who were unprepared for what these Vikings had in store. By the end of 870, East Anglia fell to the Danish invaders, and Mercia was lost only 4 years later. As the Vikings seized Northumbria next in 875, Wessex was the only remaining major kingdom under Anglo-Saxon authority. When the current king of Wessex, Ethelred, died, his younger brother Alfred was left to protect his kingdom's independence. At first, he did so by paying off the Viking aggressors, until he was eventually prepared to lead an army against them. This culminated in the Battle of Edington, which left the Danes utterly routed and ended their attempts to capture Wessex. A power vacuum in Mercia around the same time resulted in King Alfred also gaining control of the kingdom, and instead of establishing a new monarch, he placed an alderman in charge. This nobleman would answer to King Alfred himself, and kept the King of Wessex as the ultimate authority throughout both regions, although a part of Mercia would be ceded to the Vikings. After the death of the King of Wessex and the contemporary leader of Mercia in 911, Edward the Elder and Ethelfled each became their respective successors. Together, these new rulers began to increase the pressure that had already been put on the neighboring Danelaw.
Imagine being in England at the time and, you know, imagine living in Wessex, and then across the border the Vikings have settled. These crazy long-bearded individuals with swords who were violent as they come. I can't imagine living in England at that time. It must have been extremely violent volatile life must have been. It's a strong chance if you're a male of fighting age that you're not going to make it past a certain age, Quite dangerous times, really. I don't know if I'd like to live in that time frame, if I'm honest with you.
17. Ethelfled expanded her lands to the north, and Edward was able to incorporate all of East Anglia into his kingdom. As Ethelfled pushed forward with the expansion, she managed to extend Mercian territory all the way up to York, where the locals decided it would be best to simply pledge loyalty to her as opposed to fighting. Although Ethelfled shortly died, her daughter, Elfwin, was supposed to take her place and continue on the current course. Unexpectedly, though, the Mercian people quickly ousted their new leader and accidentally created the perfect opportunity for King Edward from Wessex to seize all of Mercia not long after. In 918, the Anglo-Saxons continued farther into Danelaw territory and slowly gained more and more land for themselves. By the time of Edward's death in 924, the newly acquired neighbors of the Anglo-Saxons had all pledged allegiance to the king. This put the Anglo-Saxons in a confident position as Edward's son, Aethelstan, took over the kingdom. Around this time, Etheltan's sister would marry the local Viking ruler, Sihtric, who still controlled.
Of course she did. Good old sister, eh? Married the Viking ruler. Of course she did. Wonder how that worked out.
Northumbria. Aethelstan marched on and was finally able to bring the kingdom of York under his crown as his sister's husband passed away. This left Northumbria up for grabs, and the king swiftly consolidated it as part of his kingdom. This is generally the time that most historians view the Kingdom of England as having been created. But the situation was not exactly so simple. Aethelstan was not done trying to expand his kingdom however he could, and although he did term himself the King of the English at this point, it was still not quite what we know as England today. Aethelstan decided to give an invasion of Scotland a chance to see if he could reach his authority even further.
That's... If you're from the United Kingdom, guys, all right, you'll understand that the Scottish, even to this day, you don't really want to mess with the Scottish, all right. They're hard individuals, all right. The environment they live in's quite tough. They're just tough people, all right. Most of the British armed forces, those who tend to do really well, all right, are Scottish. Those who tend to go special forces, a lot of them are Scottish, or at the very least northeast of England, all right. It's that northern, definitely Scotland. They're tough, all right, and they have been throughout the ages, hundreds and hundreds of years. These guys have battled against the English and they've been successful a lot of the time, all right. They're tough even to this day.
Kingdom of Scotland, or as it was known at the time, Alba, was at a disadvantage against the English, and therefore appealed to the other remaining sovereign states for assistance. This prompted an alliance between Constantine II, King of Alba, Olaf Guthrum, King of Dublin, and Owain, King of Strathclyde. With King Olaf at the helm, the alliance faced the English at the spectacular Battle of Brunanburh. Though it is unknown exactly where this battle took place, it is certain that the alliance was severely crushed by the English invaders.
Wow.
The casualties on both sides was disastrously high, but Aethelstan and the English were without a doubt the victors. It's believed by many that this clash may have truly solidified the unity of England and stirred up a new sense of nationalism and pride amongst the English people. Nonetheless, it didn't result in the incorporation of Alba nor Strathclyde into the Kingdom of England, as both stayed independent. England, on the other hand, would have to prove its ability to do so. The Vikings, though temporarily defeated, would return to the young kingdom at the end of the 10th century. After Ethelstan's death in 939, the previously defeated King of Dublin, who was a Viking ruler, took immediate advantage of England's temporary instability. While King Ethelstan's brother Edmund took over the English realm, King Olaf swooped in to reconquer some of the lands that had once been in Viking hands. York was quickly captured, and a large chunk of what used to be Northumbria and Mercia was also taken, as he strong-armed the English into accepting this annexation. Ironically, when Olaf died in 941 and his cousin, who shared the same name, was transitioning to the throne as his successor, Edmund of England jumped on the chance to pay the Vikings back for the invasion. The following year, the middle chunk of annexed land was retaken by the English, and in only 2 more years, the Vikings were entirely pushed out of Northumbria. This essentially reunited England, since the territory was now all under Edmund's control. As ambitious
So the English from the early days, not to sound like like bragging about my own country and stuff, but we've had to endure an awful lot in terms of the invasions from tough individuals as well throughout history. Okay, the Vikings, the Scottish. We're not talking about pansies here. We're talking about real tough groups of people literally trying to take over land, and England have always seemed to bounce back, and that, I think, that shows even to this day our resilience, our strength to bounce back. All right, we might not have the most money, the most kit, it's the same in the military. We might not have the most money or the most kit, but we are quite a tough bunch of people, and I think that's a generational thing. Obviously, just over 1,000 years ago, we got all of this going on, and we keep on fighting back. So yeah, it makes me proud, man.
as his ancestors, Edmund next invaded Strathclyde, but only took some of its southern territories by the end of the incursion. The rest was given to King Malcolm I of Scotland, as opposed to joining England. It once again appeared as though the Kingdom of England had established some stability. But this was once more short-lived. Edmund was mysteriously murdered in 946, which left his younger brother, Edred, as King of England. The next year,
I wonder if Edred had anything to do with that. You normally see in the old films and stuff that family members would kill to be in power and stuff, and back then it was very much a power-hungry society. Okay, if you were the top person within that society, you could benefit from it. All right, it's not like today where it's a lot harder to kind of run a tyrannical country, although it does happen, and it is happening around the world today. It's a lot harder. These guys used to just take over, kill the family members, get in power, and do whatever they wanted,
Here, Eric Bloodaxe from Norway attacked.
Oh, you gotta love the Norwegians. Eric Bloodaxe. Let's give him a scary name so he can... yeah, the Norwegians, man. They're tough as well. Work with the Norwegians, and yeah, Bloodaxe. That's pretty cool.
And seized the recently reincorporated
Northumbria,
which prompted almost a decade of conflicts over who, throughout the Isles, would lead Northumbria. Eventually, the English king was able to once again and permanently reclaim the territory on behalf of England. His death soon ended his reign after this victory, and his young nephew Edwig temporarily succeeded him, but was quickly deposed in favor of his brother Edgar. However, this was...
They like the name Eddie, don't they? You've got to have Ed in there. One of my good mates is called Ed, but he's nowhere near as tough as these guys.
Only a partial deposition, which meant that Edwig would still hold a small section of the kingdom as a co-ruler. When Edwig died only 2 years after this decision, Edgar simply took over the whole of England. Under the reign of King Edgar, known as Edgar the Peaceful, the true foundations of the English kingdom could finally be established. Many reforms were passed, and a vast number of the systems and laws that had existed in the Dane law were actually upheld in hopes of avoiding any displeasure from the Danish portion of the population.
Wow.
Peace, unity, and order were the pillars of Edgar's nearly 2-decade-long reign.
That's
and
cool,
his work helps to fully solidify the unity of the young Kingdom of England. The ultimate foundation of England was a long and shaky process. From the initial immigration of the Anglo-Saxons into the region to the establishment of their first kingdoms, extending into the invasion and rule of the Vikings, it wasn't until the Anglo-Saxons began to seize territory from the Danelaw that an inkling of modern-day England could be seen. After a series of conquering, being conquered, reconquering, and so on, the Anglo-Saxons eventually united the existing kingdoms throughout England. From there, it was merely a matter of establishing solid borders, maintaining their captured territory in order to keep their kingdom physically solid, and eventually under the rule of Edgar the Peaceful, building the foundational laws and structures of what we know now as the Kingdom or Nation of England.
That is cool. Yeah, so that's very new to me, all of that kind of information. England, we look at it as the United Kingdom, England, Ireland, Scotland, and Wales, but it's strange to get my head around the fact that England was pretty much formed forcibly. They never really tried to form a United Kingdom of England back in the day. It was really forced by invasions from the Saxons, from the Vikings, and from the Scottish, and re-invasions, obviously. A lot of luck involved as well. To be invaded that many times, to have leadership capable of taking back that land and eventually forming England, I think that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. It was a lot of blood was forged to create England, and it's a shame that we're not as proud. I don't think the English people are proud, but it's looked upon as a bad thing to have an England flag, for instance. All right, it's looked upon as, dare I say it, racist. All right, there's people who think, how dare you have an England flag? It's just got a bad kind of vibe with it, but it's not the same in America and other countries, okay? But I've got an England flag. I've got a United Kingdom flag. I love England, all right? I'm proud of this country, and if you are too, please like, share, subscribe to the channel. Drop us a comment below if you want me to do a reaction to a country near you, or the country you're residing in. This is a pretty cool channel, guys. I'm going to react to a lot more of their stuff. But yeah, thanks for watching, troops. Peace.